Hello and welcome back to Sharks Happen. On today's episode we're going to get into an attack in Tasmania. It happened to be on a mother of quadruplets. Those quadruplets happened to be there to watch, which is sad. The whole thing is tragic. We're going to go over the story of Therese Cartwright next. On June 5th of 1993, Therese Cartwright, her husband Ian, their 4 quadruplets that were 6 years old, and their 11-month-old baby were all out on the water. The Cartwrights, at least 2 other divers and another support boat member, were all off of 10th Island, which is Tasmania, Australia. It's good visibility in the water, and Therese and a couple others are going to go diving. The issue here is they're diving in an area that is known for sea lions and seals, and any area that is known for seals is going to be known for sharks that are going to feed on the seals, and many times those are great white sharks. So they're going to go into the water. It's 10:55 in the morning. They're 150 meters from shore. They're in about 8-meter deep water, somewhere around there, 28 feet deep, they say. And like I said, it was clear water. And they all get into the water. It sounds like all 3 of them, 3 divers get into the water. I believe it's 2 males and Miss Cartwright. The 2 males, and it sounds like the shark had showed up right when they got into the water, because the 2 males swam to the seafloor. They went straight to the seafloor. But Therese stayed at the surface. Now, they don't explain what happened prior. It doesn't sound like the shark went ahead and circled her. It sounds like it just showed up in the area and then went on the attack right away. And they said that all that the husband Ian could do was sit there on the support boat and scream. The shark came in, and the witness, the man on the support boat that was running the boat, I believe it is, said that it went for her torso first. And this sounds like a bitter and a half, basically. And it made another run at her where she had her legs sheared off. And then the shark quickly made off with the remains. They ended up getting the search people that were going to do the search, but they were hampered in doing the search for the body because the blood in the water had attracted a pot of killer whales. So they didn't want to be putting their divers in the water searching around for her body with, you know, a great white shark that took her, and now you got killer whales all over the area. So no search was had, but they did recover Miss Cartwright's leg. Mrs. Cartwright's leg was floating on the water, and it had parts of her torn wetsuit still on it. So they retrieved that. And that is all they ever recovered of her. Like I said, this was a very vicious and very quick attack, and it doesn't even sound like there was much time to do anything. Now, the 2 gentlemen that swam to the seafloor, they ended up being safe, but, you know, she was up there, and that's who it decided to take. I mean, it probably could have decided to take any of the 3, but great whites, they like having that advantage of having your head out of the water, knowing that you can't see down into the water, and it makes it even worse. So it sounds like, you know, she was hit the first time, and they said that she was kind of struggling a little bit, but the one gentleman said she was probably killed instantly, and I would think the same thing with the bite like that. So a 16-foot great white shark is just a huge shark. You're around where they're feeding. Like I said, even though these sharks have all these senses, they're 50%, 50-50, whether they get the seal they're after. So this, to me, most likely a shark that was trying to feed on the seals, like that's what it wanted, but it had to settle on something else so it could go back to feeding on the seals. Because you can, I think that any time these great whites are attacking a person with the intention to feed, it's for a purpose. It's not because they want to, it's because they have to. And they have to do that because they don't have the, you know, they don't have I guess a continuous supply of energy. They use up a lot of energy in those hunts, and if they miss out a few times too many, look out. I think that's when those big sharks come looking at shore for that easy meal. You know, these quick attacks, this one reminds me a lot of Henry Nellis. Not Henry Nellis, Simon Nellis. that we had on video a couple years ago where he was bitten in half first. And you know, I don't believe that's any bite and weight from these sharks. I don't believe in great whites, you know, bite and weight on anything smaller than their own size, which would be at the smallest, not an elephant seal, a sea lion. And you know, they have tusks, and elephant seals are very big and they can do some damage. And anything that size and larger, they use bite and weight to keep themselves from being hurt by something big. But something our size, they're not going to worry about it. And the only one I could think that was maybe a test bite that a shark was going to go forward with it is still Heather Boswell. That's the only one I test bit the guy in the thigh. He punched it in the nose, shark let him go, and lazily went over, cut her off from the boat, and took its time doing what it was. So definitely not, to me, the actions of a desperate shark. That's a shark that decided, hey, I bit this guy and I bit her foot, and both of them will be okay for what I want, so I think it was going back for her. And I do still think that I have that down as an attempt to predate, because that shark went after the second victim and then they got in a tug of war with her leg. But this one reminds me of Simon Nellis, and it's like seals that I see, usually when there's weight, it's because they bit half of the seal. They bit it in half, and they're swimming around. You can see a lot of them. I've watched a lot of these because I wanted to look for bite and weight with seals, and you can see them swimming around below the seal. They stay in the area. They don't want another shark coming in and getting their food, so they stay right there underneath it. So I think when they do that with a person, they're below it until they consume what they've bitten off, and then they come back right away. There is no weight. Like I said, with surfers, this is the Doherty that we just covered in the last single attack. That's one of the only ones I know where it was an actual feeding event where the shark actually stuck around afterwards. And then with it torpedoing at the surface like that, and it was moving and stopping. I forgot to bring that up in that last episode. But I'm wondering if it gets a piece of board in it that kind of doesn't sit right, if bones don't sit right, whatever they ate doesn't sit right. Because a lot of these stories of attacks that I've seen back in the day of Baldrich and other ones, we'll talk of disgorging, throwing up what they've eaten, whether they're being harassed and hit with oars, that's caused it before, and sometimes they do it on their own. And then you have the shark arm murder case where that shark, for some reason it didn't sit well with that shark that was in that you know, shore like ocean penned off area, it threw up that arm. So you never know what's going on with the shark, but that sounds like that shark didn't sit well with whatever it took in, whether it be a board or bones. With this one like I said, they'll bite you in half like that and just come back at you. That's a shark that's definitely out to feed from the beginning, and you're always going to know a shark that's out to feed from one that's not, even one that's thinking about it, like with Heather Boswell, which I would say that probably was thinking about feeding after the test bite. And like I said, you don't get test bites very often. We've gone over them, but they're usually, you know, somebody thinks their buddy's pulling on their shoulder, pulling on their leg. When they're out to feed, you don't get that. If they've decided to feed before they hit you, you get this. And you know, it's just like the very first episode of the whole show with Shirley Durden, who was bitten in half. This is almost the same thing. That was just in more shallow water, and she was, you know, swimming back, snorkeling from collecting abalone or whatever they were collecting out there. But you know, only 7 feet of water with that shark that got her. So another vicious attack, another fatality, fully consumed except for her leg, and that's how that'll go down. The saddest thing is that the husband, all 4 of the 6-year-olds, and luckily the 11-month-old is too young that she isn't going to realize what happened, but the other ones, you know, that's a lifetime of just being altered, I think, and just your life and everything you see afterwards. That's some tragic things, and I can't imagine. And you know, we've watched these things on video and they're disturbing. Imagine it, you know, the person and it's extended or it's vicious like that, and you see it. You know, Simon Nellis. That would be like your family sitting there watching it. That's just Popoff's dad. You know, the same thing. So just sad attacks, terrible outcome. An attack, predation, 16-foot great white shark is how we have it down in the stats, and that's the story of Therese Cartwright. And remember, if you go into that water, you are much more afraid of those sharks than they are of you.